Oh, you can see chat, but we didn't log in. So you can't type on that one.
I just realized it. Oh, so you're pulling it from that on the monitor.
Yeah, all we're doing is watching chat so we can answer questions. Like how the Legionnaire is now a cleric.
What? What?
It is.
Not some. They'll get some of their powers. In fact, I started working on
They
the
just want the name.
cleric design yesterday.
They want the name Legionnaire.
You get an audio good? Because we're up. See it. How's it sound?
Sorry, unless you've got a time machine.
It's weird that it's glitchy.
So it's okay. You're testing on the other one, right?
No, it's on Crowfall yet.
Oh, that's not a test site.
Oh, stream is up. Refresh if not working. I wonder if they can hear us. I don't know if they can.
What's that? Well, now you're looking for computers.
All right, they can hear us, guys. So you are live.
I don't see any picture.
I don't see a picture.
I don't see a picture.
I see a picture.
I'm here and I don't see a picture.
Say it sounds kind of echoey.
That's somehow your fault.
Hey, we get a Taco
You have
Bell
it
ad
on
first.
Do you have it streaming on your computer?
Hello.
I do. Yep, we're good.
Hello.
We can't see ourselves yet, so we don't know that we're live.
We're just waiting. We're watching a commercial right now.
I've got a Taco Bell commercial going on.
Taco Bell.
Hey, there we go.
It's better than pizza.
Oh, no, it's frozen.
That's old.
So it's a little bit echoey in my
Some
mic.
people can see and hear us.
What?
Some people, it says, can
I
see and
can-
hear us. but
Someone
we
says
can't.
hello, Alberto, so I'm
I can
guessing they
see
can
and
see
hear
you,
Yeah, that's right.
even though we're frozen.
Max,
Good.
can you fix that
You're good.
What am I fixing?
so that we can actually see
Is it
the
frozen?
things?
Yeah, it's frozen.
I can't fix Twitch's broken software.
Max is the worst.
He's terrible.
People of the internet, let it be known that Max is the worst.
Do you want to see this, or do you want to see the full chat? Like, just isn't that
How about if you hit the close ad? Does that fix it?
No, the problem is it's just not showing the screen.
Hit the play button.
I keep wanting to respond to you guys.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, there's Todd.
Why is that background up? Did we do that on purpose?
Yes, just to have something back there.
Oh, okay.
It's part of the massive reveal.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
What is that up there? The
I
door?
think that's Max.
We have
That's-
Max's camera?
It's Matt.
Can you guys see Max up there in the upper left too?
No, he's not on camera right now.
Press F5, noob. That's what somebody just said to you, Max.
Start
Okay,
making
well, they
Max's shots.
They say they can hear and see us. So, good morning, everyone.
Hello, I'm Thomas Blair,
Oh, J. Todd Coleman.
and today we're going to talk to you about the massive reveal that we recently did that had to deal with our races and classes.
Yes, absolutely.
And answer a ton of questions that you guys sent in, as well as questions in the chat, questions in the Twitch, and then we've got 4 hours of the various developers showing pieces of the discipline system and the new class stuff.
Yep. And somebody says they can see Twitch in the background, and I see what they mean. So one of you needs to maximize your screen. I think that's you.
Oh, that's
They can see Twitch in the background,
We can also see Max.
and we
Come
see.
on, me.
Yeah, you, John.
Nothing.
You don't have Twitch running on your machine?
We'll fix it.
Nothing that
I think that's
do
Max's.
has
Okay.
anything
I think
to
it's
do with
Max's
you
screen.
guys.
Of course, it's Max. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to accuse you.
This
John.
is in no way connected to
Okay.
any of this.
Got it. All right. Yes, I did assume your time zone. For us, it's morning. So good Austin, Texas morning.
Yes, it is morning here.
So yesterday, big reveal, a handful of things. We did a complete graphics overhaul, which is pretty big news.
I forgot to mention
Of
that.
course, that's pretty big. We did the race class splitting, which I thought we would never be able to do. So, like, in fact, if you go back and look on the forums at one point, there was a thread entitled, if you could change one thing about the design,
Yep.
what would it be? And I weighed in because, you know, nobody gets everything they want. Evidently I do, though, because I got it. But everybody put a post, and mine was, I wish we didn't just have archetypes. I wish we could do races and classes.
And what I think is funny is the entire time of doing this project, Todd was always like, "Are you sure we have to do archetypes?" And he'd come back every so often like, "Did you guys figure it out how we can make this split work?"
Yeah.
And ultimately, it always came down to it's 20 times the animations.
It's just a lot more animations, and we've only got 2 animators.
And we've got 2 guys doing it, and we still can't make the numbers work.
Right.
Unless you can give us more time, which is part of Todd's job.
Well, more time equates to more money, really. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more man-months worth of work. That
Yep.
means you either spend more time doing it with the same people, which costs you more money, or you go get more people. And so after the Title III raise, which was incredibly successful, and if any of you guys participated in that, I want to thank you for that. We then finished off our fundraising round that we'd kind of put on hold to do that, and that went better than expected. And so when that hit, I basically sat up all weekend sketching out all of the things that I thought it would take for us to make this change, and then walked in, as I do on especially 3-day weekends or when I go on vacation.
He goes, I have an idea.
I
I'm
come
like,
in
oh,
and Blair and Bill and Melissa are always like, oh, who's going to take the hit this time? And this time it was everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone got to take the hit. Hooray!
I think the timing on that also coincided with the discipline.
Right, that was the other thing that was going on.
The system was coming online, so Todd and I were able to sit down and go, well, what do we do with dodges? What do we do with retaliates? And all these racial things. And we're just like, well, we can just make racial disciplines.
Right.
And just fold
Absolutely.
up all of these powers up into the racial level.
Yeah.
At the discipline, special discipline granted to every race. And it was like, that just answered the rest of the questions.
It did, yeah. So the other thing that I think is really cool that came online with disciplines that we'll talk about a little bit, I think we'll have an update on it next week to go into it in detail, but it's passive.
Is the
right?
passive system, yeah.
So I was playing with some of these yesterday when I was in testing, and they're just really cool.
Thank you.
Was playing with
Thank you.
There was one that I had never heard of before that I saw in the game, which is kind of funny. But it was the Centaur Strength of the Legion, I think it was, which is basically if there's a contingency spell on me. If I die, then all of my group members get a buff on my death. And I was like, that is not only a really cool idea, it's a really great idea for me because I have a tendency to charge into combat and die. So I'm now doing my team a service, like a final thank you as I leave the battlefield as a crow.
So we have all of those things peppered through the disciplines.
Yeah, so talk about passives real quick. So what are they
Sure.
and how do they work?
So you have 3 or 4 types of powers, right? You've got your ultimates, you've got your left clicks, you've got your right clicks, you have your trait powers, and then you have these things called passives, and they just work all the time.
Right.
And
Because they're passive.
because they're passive.
Hence the name.
Hence the name. And you can only load out 3 of them right now. We're talking about a 4th.
Right.
And there's a lot of choice there. And I'm purposely giving you a ton of these things, so you have to make those choices.
Yeah.
Right? Do I want the bootstrapping harvesting ones? Do I want the weapon ones which bootstrap crappy weapons, right? If I don't have a good weapon, I can offset having a good weapon with this pack, but it costs me a slot, which means I may not have the room to load out that really cool death power or whatever. So you load them out. There's a lot of fun ones. There's a lot of maybe not so fun ones. We'll work on those. I mean, this is our first whack. I mean, I think we put 300 powers into the game in this last update. It's something like we just built 8 archetypes and dumped it on everybody at once.
Somebody said they're having trouble hearing our mic, by the way. So can you hear it? Okay.
I hear it perfectly.
Okay. We've got a nice microphone. No, sorry, it's not
You wanna
a.
stick
It's not
the
like.
mic right in your
It's,
face?
yeah, you want me to pull it down? I can prove it to you. So it's not like I just have my phone sitting on the table.
No, it's a boom mic. It's really nice.
I'm gonna dip it into the shot.
There you go.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for picking up our
I
voices.
think they believe you have a microphone.
I don't know. It's the internet. Nobody believes anybody on
I'm not sure
anything.
that's what they're.
And there it
There
is.
it is. Look at that. Aw.
He tells them
A lot of people are saying it's echoey. I don't know.
You guys think there's feedback? Huh?
What?
Someone
No,
said it's
They
echoey.
say it's echoey.
Well, talk softer and closer.
Todd and I don't know how to talk
Yeah,
soft.
that's not a thing.
Careless
We're both
whispers
loud
in the
talkers.
So okay, so back to passives real
Yeah.
quick. So one of the keys here is you'll see kind of as a prevailing thread through all this is the idea of choice, right? Is the archetypes, the reason I didn't like them is that they go, while they're cheaper to get into the game, so it saved us production money and
Yeah.
cost and time. The downside of it is it took away elements of player choice. I mean, if I chose to be a knight and you chose me and we're inherently basically the same,
Yep.
right? So the idea behind disciplines, the idea behind races and classes, the idea behind giving you more passives than you have slots for, all of that goes back to choice. So that even if I am the same race, the same class, and I choose the same weapon specialization, the same 2 majors and the same 3 minors as you, just our loadout may cause us to be different, and
Correct.
that may cause us to play the game very different.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to. It all goes back to the idea of choice and variability. So, but Todd, I hear you say, how does that mean? How are you going to keep all of these different choices balanced? Okay, so this is the answer is we're not, right? Like, so there will be some combinations that are better, and there will be some combinations that suck. Our job is to make sure there's not a small number of combinations that are better than everything else, right? We want it to be nice and muddy so that there's so many damn combinations, it's impossible to find one great one or 3 great ones, because this one is great in this situation, but in these other situations, it's actually terrible.
Sure.
And there will be some that are just bad in all situations, right? Like that's the other thing. That is, I mean, if the only way to fix that would be to basically take choice away from you guys and put the game on rails so that you're protected, because God forbid anybody make a bad decision,
right,
and feel the repercussions of that.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of ways to go with that, and you've seen that in the last couple of years with all of the class systems. Is they protect the player,
right?
So they can't make a bad choice,
right?
In fact, it's been a design mantra for many years now to not let players make bad choices, because then they will invariably make them and have a bad time, and they might get hurt.
Right.
And we're actually embracing the opposite.
Right, we are. So one of the things that's going to come out of that, I just noticed a comment on here of XYZ discipline is overpowered. Yeah, we dumped 100 subclasses into the game with hundreds of powers in a single build. Some of them are going to be downright broken. Not even like overpowered broken, like I click this power button and it crashes my client kind of broken. So
we haven't seen a lot of those, which I'm kind of...
I know, I'm actually glad about that. But with hundreds of powers, you should expect dozens and dozens of bugs. Some of them being minor, some of them being severe, some of them being just descriptions that are wrong.
It's not even that we just also dumped 300 powers in the game. We just changed the entire damage scale of the game.
Right, that too. Oh, yeah, that's right.
We had to go
all the numbers by 10.
We had to go touch every single power in the game, every single piece of gear in the we had to touch everything.
Yep,
and
that's true.
Like the Poisoner one right now, I know Mark has a fix ready to go in the new branch. It was still set to the old value, so it was doing times 10 damage. I thought there was going to be a couple of those. So far, we've only found 1.
Yeah.
So we changed that. We changed cooldowns. We changed resources. I mean, we touched everything.
All right, I'm going to comment on another comment, which is if there are really bad combos, there must be really good ones that everyone will eventually find and make the standard. So my counterpoint to this is to go play Shadowbane. So were there combos that were in Shadowbane that were really good? Yeah, of course. There were combos that were great. Was there one combo that was the best that ever be played? Absolutely not. No, there wasn't. There were dozens that were really, really good and dozens that were really, really, really bad. So it's a different philosophy to balancing the game, and go talk to the old Shadowbane players about it, and you'll get an earful, believe me, because they've seen it in action.
And I think, again, it's because games recently, in the last 5-10 years, have not let you make bad choices.
Right.
So people aren't used to all of the freedom, and it just doesn't boil down to one. If I give you a game on rails, there's probably going to be one optimal build for that,
right,
and everybody takes it, because your choices is about that big. We've just opened the field up to whatever, essentially. Yes. In fact, we made a pass on Sunday to open up things like Runecaster to all of the melee classes. They were originally a lot more limited, and we just made a pass. Pretty much everything is open to everybody unless mechanically they don't have rage, right? That would be a reason, or you don't have stealth.
Right.
Those are pretty much the 2 limiters right now. And then in the weapon ones, if you don't have the animations.
Yeah.
So those are the big limiters.
And even that, our goal over time is to add more and more animations to open those things up, right? This is dramatically more open than it was as far as you guys knew as of last week, and it's just going to get more and more open, because that's our goal, is to open things up as much as possible. So,
do you want to answer some questions, or because I have a list of questions. I'm seeing some crafting ones coming in too. If you can change discs, then you don't have consequences. Okay, so I've seen this a couple times on the forums already, which is the idea that people are going to be changing disciplines on the fly.
Right, all the time.
All the time, and that is not a thing Absolutely not a thing, just because of the resource cost to build them.
Right.
Right now, they cost 1 ore in game because it's testing.
Right.
We need you to test every one of these and find all the bugs before, obviously, as we move towards live.
Yep.
They require you to find a thrall in the world of that specific type.
Right.
Right? Finding these things is going to be challenging. Some of them are going to be more rare than others.
Right. Yep.
And if you find, let's say, Bard is the hot one, right?
Of the week.
Right? It's the hot one. There isn't a lot of Bard thralls in the world. You're not going to be swapped because you actually consume these things when you equip them.
Yeah, once they're equipped, you can replace them with something else, but the first one is burned.
It's gone.
Right? It's gone. So I mean, it's not just a loadout situation.
Correct.
Where I'm changing powers. Now you can change powers and passives, and right now there's no cooldown.
There
That'll
will be.
change as well. There will be a
Yeah.
cooldown on it as well, because we don't want people basically changing out their passives in real time. Using hotkeys.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody just said Bards are hot. Yeah. They are, in fact. They're a lot of fun right now. The particles are coming online. They're looking good. It used the new toggle buff system that we built. I spent a lot of weekends working on that one. I'm really happy with where it came out.
So somebody just asked the question, who's that guy in the upper left who's not talking? That is Max,
That's
the
Max.
worst person in the universe. That's our
Did you say
associate
worst?
producer.
Worst.
Worst.
In the universe.
The universe is a big place. So in the history of Earth.
You want to change to the background
He should
picture,
not be
Max?
up there when he's not.
It's been
I
15
agree.
minutes.
That's true.
Let's see if you can change the background picture.
What do you want to change it to?
Oh, whatever. Something new.
Dog.
So back to that. So yes, it is an out of combat preparatory thing when you're forming your group. Kind of, hey Todd, we need a support slot that's running these disciplines.
Yeah.
Some of these disciplines, right? And be like, okay, I've got this kind of guy, right? It's not, hey, there's another group. Quick, let's all swap out our builds to counter
So
them.
there's a couple other questions. One was, can I loot your disciplines when I kill you? No.
No.
You don't lose your disciplines when you die.
Oh god.
Oh, really? You had to pull that up? So, what was there was another question. Oh, somebody asked, how long does it take to create disciplines in terms of production time? So that's an interesting question, actually. So let's start with the miners, right? So let's say I wanted to create a new miner discipline that, I don't know, did something, right? It's Rainmaster. It actually allows me to summon storm clouds.
Okay.
So I come to you and I'm like, hey, I really want some kind of weather mastery discipline in, but I don't want it to be a major. I want it to be a minor. So it's just going to give you a passive.
Sure.
So how long would that take you to make?
That particular one,
Yeah.
still don't have the tech, but it would probably take me like 10 minutes.
Okay.
That one's an easy one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a harder one. Spirit Whip.
Okay.
Spirit Whip was probably, it took me 10 or 12 hours to make that one.
Okay.
And that was because I had to go into every single one of the archetypes or classes now, basic attacks, and add a chain for the attack actually chaining to multiple targets.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So explain what that one does.
So basically all your basic attacks will now jump up to 2 additional targets, and each time it jumps, it does, the first jump it does 50% less damage, and the third jump is 25%
So it's chain
damage.
lightning effect.
Basically on your basic attacks.
Yep.
And I love the idea of it. I'm like, man, this one is going to be a huge data one, but I'm willing to do it. And it took me about 10 or 12 hours at home, which is probably worth 2 to 3x the time working in the office because I'm uninterrupted at home. Yes, my day is a lot of hey Blairs, which kind of pop me up from work to keep the team moving forward on whatever other issues that we have.
He actually restricts the number of hay Blairs that we get per day.
Yes, so when somebody comes by and says, like, it's always hey Blair, I'm like, all right, you're using your hey Blair for the day. So some miners take a really long time, and some of them are 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, it's really, it depends on what we want to do.
Right.
But the goal was to create a huge
Let's say
spread.
it's a simple one. It's not. It's a poisoning one that adds just a poison effect onto.
We made that one.
power. It's a new power. Let's say, as opposed to impacting all my left clicks, my
Okay.
base attacks.
'Cause we
it's
made that
a
one.
brand new power that poisons somebody. How long would that take you?
That's probably about 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
The
Not including any animations or any particles.
That's where
just raw data.
Yeah, it's about 30 to 45 minutes because you want to test it and you want to fill out the strings to make sure it reads correctly.
Yeah.
Our power tool has gotten pretty robust now that we can make a lot of these pretty quickly. And what actually slowed us down in implementation of a lot of these was the new tech we needed. So we put a ton of new powers tech in for all of these. The ability to modify crits on the target. I can make the critical hits on the target go up or down. Excuse me. The ability to deal more damage if the target is snared, right? Basically, dealing conditional-based damage based on the target state. We didn't have that before. So adding all this stuff into the combat engine opened a bunch of doors for the future.
And you get, now going forward,
We have that
you
Lego.
have all that stuff.
We call them Legos, right? We
Okay.
have those Legos, and we can use them in different ways.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so here's a good question that came down, which is basically, why did you guys select the particular race cast combinations that you did? John, can you flip us back, or Max, can you flip us back over to the race class chart?
Yep, I see in the back.
It's in the background, so hold on.
You're there.
I was waiting for Max to click on this, but he didn't ever, because he sucks and he's the worst person in the universe.
Good grief.
So
You're
The
30 seconds.
the
in
roast
future,
future,
by the way. So
that's true.
Oh, that is an excellent idea. We now need a Hey Blair miner. I love it.
Okay, so this is the initial race class combinations chart. So you can look at each of the classes, look at each of the races, and see. And generally speaking, it was like for any given race, we wanted them to have 3 to 4 available classes.
Yep.
And for any given class, it was kind of more all over the board. It was really more narrative and thematic choices. So I've heard a lot of people specifically saying, how come the Ganetian didn't get assassin? And the reason is because they have their own type of assassin class. They're in fact the only race that has a unique class just to them, and that's the duelist, that is already their stealth class, right?
Yep.
And so that was the reason. If we feel like it's different enough, then yeah, we can always go and add it. We're still working on assassin right now. So it didn't feel to us the same reason that Stalker just kind of didn't feel like it made sense anymore. It was like the crossover here with Ranger is actually pretty high. All the other things we were going to give them, they can now get through disciplines. Yep. It didn't seem to warrant now its own class anymore. So that was the same thought was, Duelist already does a bunch of the things that for the Ganetian that we were going to give Assassin. It felt like it was overkill. It just felt like it was two ways to get to the same vision. So if that's not the case and you can't take a Duelist with Knife Grinder and Poison Master or Poisoner and you can't get there, then okay, we'll look at opening it up as a combo. It's not, the thing about this whole decision was it was now or never. If we launch the game with archetypes, Crowfall would forever be a game with archetypes.
You can't change that.
We couldn't change it. It would be like NGE, right? It would be a dramatic change to underlying systems that people would have already invested a ton of time into, and inevitably half your players would be incredibly pissed off. Right. So instead, by doing it now, it put us in a position to be able to add more things later. There's a few in here that I just really thought would be cool, but we just were like, that seems like too many to pare it down. Like I thought having a Fey Knight would be really cool. I just thought it was kind of a neat idea. That one didn't get on there. Having an Elkin Assassin, that seemed pretty cool, but we just didn't get to it. So we will eventually go and fill this chart out more. Unless it's like a narrative reason, why not? So, for example,
Human Confessor.
The Human Confessor is a great example, right? There are human confessors. They call themselves Nathari. Did we just freeze up?
You're good, Todd.
Okay.
Keep going. Don't worry about that computer. It's the computer. It's not
Okay. So human confessors are Nathari. That's what they call themselves. But effectively, under the covers, they are humans. They've come up with this idea that through years of indoctrination and breeding, that they are a better race, where in actuality it's arguable, right? So that was why. That's why technically the Nathari line and the human line and even the half-elf line are all kind of human bases.
Yeah.
The elves, wood elf and high elf are again, they're kind of off the same base. So they are different, but they're not dramatically different. So. Anyway, there's a quick answer.
And I would think from what we're going to do with the attributes on the racials, the humans would they're going to end up with more strength and more spirit than intelligence.
Yeah, so we went through, we did put up the initial attributes, but I do want to caution you guys that is highly subject to change. What's going to happen, we put in right now, for example, every race class combo has exactly the same number of weapon specializations, majors, and minors. We may very well change that. We may decide that, wood elves, because they get this kind of cool blink teleport right-click power that they can put as a dodge, humans don't get that. all right, well, let's give humans an extra minor as a result, or something like that. There's a whole bunch of balancing that we will do later.
Yep.
But for right now, to get them in quickly, it was like, all right, let's just put all the disciplines in, make it cost 1 ore to make them, stick them on if anybody that we think it might be reasonable and it's not too expensive from an animation standpoint. And then once we get them in and working, we'll know what we've got in our hands, and then we can add some. Some of them will get yanked. I have no doubt. Some of these disciplines won't make the cut. They just either won't be fun, or they'll be too problematic, or too buggy, or unbalanced, or whatever. So you guys, by now, if you've been with us long enough, you can kind of intuit our method of development, which is to get things in, get them up and running, get the scaffolding there, and then once you have an idea what you have, you start to build it and build on that foundation, or pull it down if it's not working.
Yeah.
It's a very iterative approach to development. So.
Let's answer some of the questions that
Okay.
were on
I was
the
going to say,
forums.
are you reading through them, or do you want me to pick
No,
them out?
I'll pick some of these up.
Sure.
Will the basic power kit for each archetype currently has be transferred over to its corresponding class with the new system? Yes.
Yes.
So all the druid powers will go to the druid, for example.
Right.
However, there are certain of those powers that will go to the wood elf. For
Yep.
example, the right-click Misty Step, as Todd likes to call it.
Well, it seems like a D&D Misty Step, or Blink.
Dissipate, I think, is what basically that becomes the wood elf racial dodge power.
Right.
Right. So certain things will migrate over to the race, and certain things will go to the class.
The Legionnaire's rear kick is a great one, right?
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense to give to the other clerics now that one's changed over to cleric. So that'll definitely be a racial power that will be on centaurs, and they'll just get the benefit of that. Same with their speed bonus, the movement bonus.
That's a racial thing.
It's a racial thing.
So a certain chunk of the current archetype goes to race, and a certain chunk goes to the class. Was that so? Not all druids get teleport. You are correct, Leilani. If you are a wood elf druid, you will get teleport. If you are not, you will. If you are, who else can be a druid on this chart? The Fae does not get a teleport.
But she will get wings.
But she gets
will
wings.
get wings.
They get that really short dash, real short, quick dash. So that will factor into your decision on how you want to build your character. What's more important to you, wings or a right-click blink?
Yeah. So the question just came up, does each race have a pro and a con? And it's not really about the cons right now, right? It's a question of they all have different pros, and my not having wings could be looked at as a con, but it's really a question of what race package do I like better. They'll also have passives, they'll have slightly different attributes, slightly different skill bonuses. So the short answer is it's messy. But that's also a min-maxer's dream. I mean, that's what's fun about a lot of these systems, exploring and finding unique combinations and unique synergies that other people just haven't stumbled.
Yeah, once we actually start deciding who gets what. So, for example, all of the harvesting passives I just put in, it may not be that everybody gets all three.
Right. That's
right.
True.
It may just be the Stoneborn gets the mining and the quarrying one.
Yeah.
Right. So again, we will start divvying these up between the races. Where they seem appropriate.
No, our goal in that is to make sure that we don't ever make it too obvious. Like, oh, well, if I want to be a harvester, then I have to be a Stoneborn. So we don't want to make any of them overloaded too much in one area that it becomes the only obvious choice. We want it to be hard choices all the time. Like at every turn, I feel like, crap, I really want A, B, and C, and I have to give up something. I can't have everything.
Yep.
That's where it becomes fun.
Okay, can you give us any details on the cleric class because of the Legionnaire has been changed because it's no longer a uniquely rated centaur? Yes, it will have heals. It will have support stuff. We're still undecided exactly where they land as far as resource mechanic. It's not just going to be a renaming of all the Legionnaire assets. They will get one or two of them, but they're going to get some new stuff.
Yeah.
There's
going to be some change there. That one started, of course, with the fact that the centaurs have very Romanesque armor.
Right.
And so once that became a race, it was like, all right, well, if a Stoneborn can be one and he's not wearing Roman-style armor, doesn't really make sense for him to be called a Legionnaire, and it didn't. And so we started, that basically opened the conversation to, well, what should this be? And we realized, what's missing here, even though we don't want to have fire hose healing, is we just need to have a traditional cleric. It became much more obvious from a narrative standpoint that was a hole in the lineup. So we said, okay, well, this is a good opportunity for us to fix that.
Will the Ranger Stalker merger, will some abilities be cut from both, but keep the ones you feel fit the new class, or there will be all new abilities? I think we're just going to merge in the ones that we thought that were very iconic to the Stalker and maybe cut some of the weaker ones. I mean, that's
And,
just.
and move some stuff to disciplines,
I
right?
mean, that's just. Yeah, with the discipline system, we can totally make all kinds of crazy
Yeah,
subclasses. now,
absolutely.
right? In fact, it was kind of funny because I was like, you know what? We really didn't need this many classes had we started earlier with
That's
disciplines.
probably true. Yeah, that's
Right? I
probably
mean,
true.
because we took 4 or 5 very iconic, strong game mechanics and put them around a wrapper like Bard or Banshee, and those both are very strong. Dryad, Pixie, same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
they all feel very iconic. They could be.
They could have been classes, on
right.
their
I
own.
mean, yeah. I mean, if you'd given them another 3 or 4 less strong powers, they would have fit one of the archetypes. So we could have gone with less had we started here.
And so some of these majors, I think, will end up having not a giant, but a noticeable, significant game system to back up them specifically. Bentley, for example, is working on
The map
scouting
system, yeah.
right now, and the scouting system is an interesting game into itself. So you enter a campaign world, and you basically are surrounded by fog of war, right? So you come in and you open your map, your world map, and you're going to have basically one cell. Anything you've explored, which is nothing, it's going to be one cell with a temple in the middle of it, right? So as you move around the world, just like Civilization or any of those kind of games, it's going to be opening up that fog of war.
Yep.
What scouting does is it allows you to take a blank map object that you craft, and you can effectively hit a power to scroll on that map the surrounding area. And what it does is it takes a snapshot of anything that's in the area. So if Blair's dropped a house in this area, which of course you can't do on some of the campaign worlds, but we hope
Right.
we'll be able to do on others. If Blair's dropped a house there, it'll scroll that house on the map. If I then take that map and give it to Max, in spite of the fact that he's the worst person in the world, I give it to Max.
In the history of the world.
In the history of the world, and I let Max use it. Max, even though he hasn't been to that grid square, can now open up that part of the fog of war.
Yep.
So, and it'll show Blair's house. If Gibson later comes and wipes that house off the face of the planet, that doesn't update your map or his. So it actually isn't just a one-time scouting thing. You're going to want to send scouts out on a continual basis to basically refresh everyone's maps. We've even talked about having like a particular type of crafting station where you can check those maps in, and then other people in your guild can come and scroll the information off of it to kind of download it. So that's all of that is basically a system to support scouting as a concept. So that if I want to go into a campaign and just be a scout, and I'm a great scout, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a valid. It's a valid game role.
And
to
you can
play.
see why some disciplines are more expensive than others to make.
Absolutely.
Because that's not a combat power. That's going to take multiple weeks of
It's
an
an
engineer.
exploration power, right? So.
But it will still fall under the major umbrella, and it will probably get a couple combat things with it to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, sure. And we may end up taking some of that functionality and moving it somewhere else. It may be that creating that war table is an entirely different major discipline, right? Or coordinating and being able to mass produce that stuff is now a commander discipline or something like that. So anyway, that's what's interesting about the system is it gives us a very easy kind of architecture to start building these other subsystems underneath.
Okay, with the massive environment graphic updates, are you guys planning on updating the character visuals as well?
What's that? Sorry, I got distracted reading.
Yeah. So much chat. With the massive environment upgrade, are you guys planning on updating the character visuals as well? I know there is a new shader coming online.
Yeah, there is a shader coming on. So this was our first cut at getting the new lighting system in.
Yep.
So the lighting system is in now. Even the next build that comes out, it looks dramatically better because we've now gone through and started to adjust those settings. We have more terrain shader work coming. We have weather effects coming. We have day-night cycle coming. So it is just going to get better from here. That said, are we going to go back to all of our characters and make wholesale changes? Probably not. So. I don't know that we need to, though, quite frankly. I think that once we got all the shader work working correctly, it's going to look pretty impressive. It's going to look pretty awesome.
With the addition of new races, is there a chance that monster races will be getting female genders? I don't think we signed up for any more beyond the ones that we...
No, and actually the ones that are left now, we haven't done because we're afraid they'll look really stupid. That's actually the main reason. Like the Minotaur... Like making a female Minotaur is just asking for people to run around looking goofy. That's why they would do it, right? Is to make cow jokes.
Yeah, I think about on EverQuest 1, the Gukton race. It was frogs, and they put in a female, and they had to give it a female bra because, of course,
right,
reasons. Does a female frog have boobs? I mean, what's
Yeah,
it's just
I don't know. So it's pure. I mean, at this point now, gender is purely cosmetic. It has no in-game effect. It's purely cosmetic. So the ones that we aren't doing now, we're only not doing because we think the cosmetics would be kind of goofy. I mean, the Stoneborn are.
well, there's a lore reason for some of them.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, there's lore as well, but like the Stoneborn, if you look at them, right, they look like stone golems or earth elementals. They don't really look like dwarves at all.
Right.
They have a big beard. They have a big beard made of roots, and they're made of living stone. So if Dave could go and whip up a concept that looked really cool, I'd be open to it. So far, we haven't seen that. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll see. Though if we did do one, I think a Ganesha would probably be next.
Well,
You don't think that'd be
the
ridiculous?
female Ganesha.
Uh-huh. Of the ones we've got, that's the one that would be most likely to be next. Like, well, Centaur's a great example. When we started in Kickstarter, we didn't have a female Centaur. And Dave whipped up a concept that looked amazing, and we're like, all right, no problem, make this a reward. So we made it a stretch goal, right? So we're not totally opposed to it. I just don't want to do it if it's going to be stupid looking.
That is a good reason. Will the Sun Elf and Moon Elf vessels be crafted separately, or are they a cosmetic distinction made after crafting the High Elf vessel? Right now, it's one recipe.
Yeah, it's
So-
High Elf is High Elf.
Yeah.
Sun and Moon are just different families, the noble houses within. So it will probably unlock different skin and hair options,
Yeah.
but that's it. They're otherwise identical.
Yeah, when you look at, or when you click the race you want to be, it will look for the elf vessel and not a specific Sun Elf or Moon Elf vessel.
So just for clarity for the viewers, the questions that Blair is reading right now are taken from the forums, but we do want to get some questions from the Twitch chat as well.
Any ones that are
Yeah, every now and then we see one that pops up. There was one asking about our VR support. On my list of priorities, VR is at the bottom. I mean, eventually, yeah, we'll do it because we said we would, and we'll get to it. When we did that, it was kind of in the early. Everybody was punch drunk on the idea of VR and how it was going to be amazing and stuff like that. Having played with it now, I don't think it's as simple as just turn on the glasses and it'll be great. Having played a number of apps now, I think it's going to be a lot more experimentation.
Yeah.
And I don't right now our priority needs to be on making this game as great as possible. So eventually I still want us to get to it, but I'm not spending any time or effort thinking about it right now just because it doesn't make sense. We got bigger fish to fry.
Are the armor weapon appearances based on race or class now, or something else?
It's based on race. It's actually cultural, right? The armors are now cultural. They're racial.
Yes. The weapons, however, are kind of a la carte.
Yep, depending on, it's a combo, right?
It will be a part of the crafting recipe at the very end, that design screen, what appearance you want it to make. We haven't really built that yet, so that's still kind of, it's not a thing yet.
It's not. Nope.
Right. So we'll know more once we actually start building that thing. How does the change from archetypes to racing class combos affect promotion classes? Good question.
Yeah, that's another one that I personally have thought, let's wait on it until I have a basic problem with getting too far out there in terms of design. I like to have a general idea and you kind of rough out, okay, here's where we're going. But I don't like to get into the details of designs when you're way back here working on this. Doing detailed design work way out here in the future, you're basically just wasting your time. Because inevitably, assumptions that you made here are going to turn out to be wrong. Things that you didn't think were possible, like race class, for example, turn out to be possible. Things that you thought would be easy are going to turn out to be impossible. So the further and further out on the limb you are in terms of the design, the more you are risking that design just not being relevant, and just not making any sense. The context matters too much. So I tend to like to have a good idea of where we're going, pencil it out, and then as you're building it, you kind of look at, okay, well, what are we doing right now? How did that turn out? What assumptions were correct? What were not? And how does that adjust the next layer out? And then you just kind of let it go further. So all of that is a build-up to saying, I don't really know on the promotions. We roughed it out. We have some ideas. We just made a fundamental change, both with the race class switch and with racial disciplines and with passives and with disciplines. I'd kind of like to now see how all those assumptions turn out. And then we'll go back and take a look and say, okay, now what's the ripple effect of this on promotions? Are they necessary? Are they cool? Should they just be discipline runestones?
Right.
What does that mean now in terms of how it feels and in terms of the overall character progression? So I'm just not spending a lot of time thinking about it because I know that would be wasted effort, quite frankly.
Yep. How has these changes affected the development schedule?
Well, the development schedule was already pushed out, right?
Yeah.
So once it became apparent to us last year that we weren't going to hit our original Kickstarter date, we basically came back and said, guys, we're not going to give you dates now. We're going for quality. That's the important thing. That eventually we think will determine whether we're successful or not. So thank you for being patient with us. We're just going to get to work. This particular amount of work we've managed to thread back in by getting additional resource in. But that said, there's always an impact for everything. My promise to you guys was that we would make this game for you and that we would make it great. And that has to be my guiding stone, right? At the end of the day, if I'm ever in a situation where it's a choice between get it out now or make it great, I will always choose make it great. And I understand that some people disagree with that or they don't like it, but ultimately you guys are going to judge us as a team based on how great the game is, not when it comes out, unless it's out by like 4 years or something like that. But we're not talking about that. I mean, we've been in this now for what, 2 years? 2 years and a couple months?
2 years and a couple months was actually started building.
So if you look at where we are now compared to our Kickstarter, we've actually done a shocking amount of work with a small team in a small time. If you check in every week, it's hard to see that.
Right.
Because things seem to go so slow. But if you look at it like on an every quarter or every 6-month basis, it's actually moving forward leaps and bounds. And the really important thing is that it's moving forward. What you're seeing from us is constant progress, constant momentum.
And the thing that they don't see is all of the little things we do to make things better.
Right.
For example, we just spent 2 weeks of an engineer's time to make the trees more performant.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, it took Steve offline for 2 weeks, and he went in, and trees are now client side until you activate it, and then it activates on the server. And the object gets charged to us. Before, you were getting charged for all the objects, and you will never know about that except for the fact
that you're telling them.
Except I told them.
And that doesn't mean they're client-side trees. It means they're now light objects. Previous to this, a tree was about as heavy on our server as a player. If you can believe that. So now we just went back. It was an optimization. When he first got it in, there was a little blip. Like you could see that moment when you first start harvesting it, where it flipped from being a light object to a heavy object. Now you don't even see that. So literally now, you unless there's a bug, you can't really tell a difference. And that took us a very senior engineer offline for a couple weeks.
Right, and that you have to do hundreds of changes like that.
Thousands of things like that.
And that's the problem is there's all these little things that you don't know about that end up eating a lot of the time. I mean, we could just make powers all day, but that's not actually going to get us running performance.
Right.
We need a lot of the standard server stuff. Anyways, how do you expect players to jump in the game now with so many complex systems? I've followed the game for 2+ years, and now I'm pretty lost.
How do they jump into the game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I will say this is that our game is going to be more of a hardcore experience. It's a game for gamers. I mean, it's not going to be a casual mobile like ramp up. So we do have the new user experience, the tutorial or however you arrange your new user experience. To me, that should be the last thing you work on, because what happens is if you wire it up beforehand, anytime anything in the game changes, which in the state we're in right now, everything changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Your tutorial or your new user experience breaks. That's just the way it always is. So I inevitably put that to the end of the project. But that said, this is going to be a min-maxer's game to a large degree. It's going to be, it's going to be a harder core experience. We're not making a game that's going to be super casual. So.
If you look at the discipline system, I don't think that it reads anyway as a hardcore game. No. You're going to have to make a lot of hard choices. Right. And now there's 35 different major disciplines.
But you also, guys, this is another philosophical thing, is we have no, belief or even goal to go out and sell a couple million units at the beginning of at our launch. That's not even something that we talk about. Our goal all along has been, we want to build a game for a particular type of player that has been wanting this kind of game really since Shadowbane days. We're going to make it great for them, and we hope that if we do that, they will stick with us for a decade. That's our win condition as a company. Always has been.
Yeah.
So.
get 5 million players.
I don't even want that. I don't want 1 million people showing up and then in the 1 month later, 800,000 of them are gone. I'd rather get to the same number, 200,000, but do it slowly over a 1 year, right? It's just organically growing and building. That's a better model for us.
And generally, I've been using kind of Gordon as the thermometer for the new stuff to see if he can understand it. But I couldn't get him to block for almost a year. I mean, so if Gordon can understand it, we've kind of we're at least in the ballpark. I can do. Let's see. We've been about.
So
15
somebody
minutes.
said it's a game only a min-max game. That's not what was billed. No, I mean I'm not saying that the game is only going to be for min-maxers, but I'm going to say that the game is going to not be super casual. I think that there's a balancing point in there. So and that the game will have depth there for the min-maxers who want it. So I'm not saying that if you get into the game and you're not the type of player who uses Excel to plot out everything, you're going to hate it. I mean, we do want a nice spread. I just don't want to try and sell the game as, hey, this is going to be super casual. It's not. It's not the game that we're building.
It also requires friends.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that there will be a role for solo play style, but effectively it is a connected experience. If
Yeah.
not friends, then connections to other players, right? I need people that are supplying me with resources so that I can craft. I need to sell my crafted goods to other players.
I think it goes back to some of the things we said early on, which is no one is an island unto themselves.
Right.
Right.
That's just not the kind of game that we're making, you know. And that is what you've seen in MMOs over the course of the last, really since WoW, is a move towards more and more siloed experiences.
Yes, everyone has every trade skill. Everyone has every
And
harvesting profession.
Remove any time when I need other people or I need to interact with other people. That's been the general trend. And we are throwing the pendulum back in the other direction.
Yep, I go to the auction house. I don't need to go looking for vendors and shops and things like that, right? I mean, so again, that is what we're building. That's what we're walking into. That's what we're trying to build.
Okay, so here's a question real quick. Any info on how our players can obtain land parcels, houses, and the to-be implemented crafting stations? So yes, the build that we snap tested last night actually had parcel building recipes and architecture, house building. It's just houses or other buildings too?
I think it was just the 3 houses.
Okay, but yeah, so we've started to put those recipes in. So some players for their EKs will decide to get them as part of a package or whatever, but you don't have to do that now. You can go into the game and you can build them directly with recipes.
Yep, and somebody brings up the multi-boxing issue there, and somebody else responds with, playing 2 characters in this game is pretty much impossible from a gameplay standpoint. We don't have follow. You can't follow. Combat requires you to aim.
Right.
Right. It's not as simple as tab targeting, assisting the leader, and all lighting up a character.
Yeah. Now, if I did want a multi-box with one character back in my home crafting while I've got another character that I'm actually playing out in the world, we can't stop that. I mean, that's so we don't spend a lot of time trying to engineer around it because we can't stop it. I mean, literally, that's just nothing we can do about it. So, okay, I guess it'll happen. It happens in every other game. We can't do. We aren't going to be able to solve problems that other games with 100 times our budget weren't able to solve.
Sure.
So,
hey, Ziz is in there and brings up a point. No one's an island, but a lot of people play solo. Don't have guilds supplying them, so the game systems need to support that.
Yep.
Yep.
I agree with that.
We agree with that. I mean, you're part of the supply chain, right? The idea isn't that you're not part of something. The idea is that you aren't the entire chain.
Right.
Right. The idea is that you're a piece of the chain, and you have to bump heads with other people and interact.
Well, we're building a world, right? That's it. We're not building a single player game. We're building a world, and we want you to interact with the world, and that world is filled with other players. And that doesn't have to be. So it's Raph refers to this as light touch.
Yeah.
Right. Light touch social connections. So it may not be that. Bob and I are really, really good friends or guildmates, and we go out adventuring together all the time. But Bob comes by my store to buy longswords once every 3 or 4 weeks, and I kind of know who he is. And it does build up. I build up kind of this web or network of light touch people that make the world seem like an actual, real, living, breathing place. And I think that's important. Again, it's kind of been lost largely, right?
Yeah. Yes, and you're talking about the map station where everyone goes to update their maps.
Yeah.
It's light touch there. I see Todd there 2 days in a row. Howdy. Right? I mean, it just that I say hi to somebody else.
And it's a familiar face.
It's just like, oh, hey, I recognize him because I thought he had a really cool looking whatever.
Yeah.
Could have been a hat. Could have been whatever. I just said howdy because I saw him, and he may have said howdy back.
So we talk about this internally as what we build. We build community-based games, right? So initially the game is the venue, like a bar, right? And the game is the thing that brings people in. But what keeps them around long term is the social connections. Being part of the community is why I come back and I continue playing. Sorry, I was looking. I got caught by another question. I thought somebody said something about. We already talked about Stalker.
Okay, people are still asking about it in the chat.
Have they touched on crafting disciplines? So we did not implement a bunch of crafting disciplines, and we didn't implement a bunch of harvesting disciplines. The harvesting passives are the intro to what kinds of things can we do
Right.
to make harvesting
And
more interesting.
replace the potions. So the harvesting test potions that we had in are now dead.
Yep.
Those are gone, and they're not coming back. Right.
Yep.
Okay. So talk about how those passives work.
So those are designed to help people who are coming into the game and have 0 skills. Let's say you come in and you have no skills. So you can load out the mining passive, and that will get you to plethora of harvesting 3, which gets you out of the kind of the dregs of, damn it, I use dregs, which is a place, as dregs as a quality, out of the basement, so to speak, of the quality levels. It won't get you above 3, but it costs you a passive slot. So you've given up something to harvest a little better, and that will help you get good enough stuff if you go out harvesting for that one particular type. So I'm going to try experimenting with these in all of the profession styles, and it's basically a way to leg up for the newer characters coming in.
So this is Durnthal just pointed out, but there are some potions in there still. There are still some potions in there.
Yeah, the criticals.
The ones that we pulled out specifically were the test potions that were never intended to be there long term.
There's still like the testing critical ones in there,
Okay.
and the crafting ones. Those are going to make their way out as soon as I come up with passives to replace them.
Okay. And Zrathor just brought up a really good point, which was yesterday's test server. You had rank 10 nodes, but everybody was wiped, so there was literally you couldn't harvest them. So we put in some nodes into the next test that are ranked 4 or 5. So
yeah, so you should be able to
build your way up the chain.
Yeah, if you can get to 40 or 50 mining skill, you should be able to get some of those 10 nodes. We built a test map, and new characters with rank 10 nodes should never be a thing that happens. That's just us getting over enthusiastic about putting good stuff in the map to get people to go play out there.
So are any of the newly announced systems going to be in tomorrow's test build? So the disciplines are all in. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of disciplines. I think there's like, under the covers, there's over 100.
Yep.
I think exposed to the players, there's like 89 or something like that in the build right now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what else. So there's a ton of stuff that went in. Passives went in. You can go in now with hit K to bring up the power window, and you can actually change your loadout, change your passives. PvP flag is now turned on. You can set that on for your EK. You can make your EK public and private. In fact, I think that the build is up right now with EKs. So if you wanted to get in and check that out, you could do it actually right now.
I know people were testing out combat in their EKs because I saw some people reporting that they bugs from that.
So there's the patch list for this build was actually enormous. Oh, and a bunch of the lighting changes, right? So the new lighting system did go in. The weather isn't in, the day-night cycle isn't in, but the lighting changes, baseline lighting changes are in. So you'll be able to log in and see that, and it looks significantly better.
There's a bug which makes it very difficult to test the new contact. Are you aware of it? I don't know what that means.
Test all the new contact. I don't know what that means either. Okay, so let's grab another question while we
Okay, well,
we wait to see.
you mentioned that lore is a primary reason for the race class combos. How much of a consideration are roles such as tank, DPS support, and game balance? Will you be constantly balancing to account for an emerging game meta? That last part, obviously, right? However, there's enough variables now that the meta is just going to shift nonstop no matter what we do.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's just so many things. People will start building anti-confessor builds, and confessors will find their way out. People will start building whatever the new thing is. There's so many angles. It's not just as simple as AB or rock paper scissors. Is a better way to look at that.
Okay, so do we have an idea when you'll get improved discipline permanence, i.e. not lose them on death? So there were 2 bugs yesterday.
Yep.
One was I could put a discipline on my guy, load out some powers, replace that discipline, and keep the old powers.
Yep.
That obviously was a showstopper, and we fixed that already.
Yep.
What about the losing them on death?
That was fixed as well.
Fixed as well. So yes, I have an idea when that's going to be fixed. It's already fixed.
Already fixed the next build.
Next build. So
Um,
so let's see. Loadouts reset on death and log out. Will that be fixed this weekend? I think it is. So we'll test it internally, and we may have another snap test coming, and you guys will be able to see it as well.
and if
So,
we are fixing these as fast as
yeah,
possible.
actually, so part of the problem that we've had now internally is we had all these different strike teams working on different things, and now just getting them all packaged up and out to you guys to test has become problematic. Like
Yeah.
it's hard for us to get enough stuff into one build without breaking the build completely. So so we've got a ton of stuff coming, and we've still that you haven't seen. It's a pretty exciting time. A lot of the seeds that we planted at the end of last year, or even last fall, are just now starting to really sprout.
Yeah.
Life.
It looks like Greg's starting to assemble for the next one. And when are you going to fix trees? As a player who has no skill in harvest, I'm able to take down rank 10 trees without a good quality axe. That is a bug. And I've been trying to track down what is causing that. I will nail it at one of these points. And we are going to jump into the next thing. Gibson is making the kill symbol at us.
So any other? I guess before we jump out, we should just say thank you, everybody,
Yeah.
for tuning in. It's really cool of you to continue to show interest in Crowfall. And for those of you who have been with us this whole time, we can't thank you enough. We should have another build coming up shortly. I don't know if it'll be today. We'll see how the build looks this morning and consider snap testing it again before the weekend.
The rest of today is going to be about disciplines and more race class stuff.
And an environment showcase. Too.
And we're doing an environment showcase as well. Greg is coming on deck next to show you a discipline effect. And then I believe I'm up afterwards with Billy. We're going to make some icons for the things. After that, Halish and I are doing a discipline overview. We're going to walk through some of the fun ones, show you how they were built. I'll answer this question about how barred twisting works. I saw somebody was doing it out there last night, which is really cool. You guys are already figuring the stuff out. And then we've got O'Neill with environments.
At 3, yep.
At 3, what's 4?
Dog It and Cook with the animation showcase.
Oh, we get to see some animations as well this afternoon. And then Todd and I will wrap it up at 5.
Yep.
And thank you again for coming out. I hope you enjoy the stuff you see today. The team has worked incredibly hard over the last couple of months. It was kind of funny. About 3 months ago, Gordon was yelling at me about why the hell we were building disciplines. And I'm like, you know how long this is going to take to build all this content? And we landed the ship right on schedule. And had we not started 3 months ago, we wouldn't be done. There was a ton of work put into this by a lot of the engineers to improve the combat system. Graphics looks great. I can't wait for you guys all to play it.
So let them know we're going to do a quick reset and calibrate and get Greg set up, and then we'll be back up.
Okay, we're going to reset for Greg. Hopefully the thing says coming up next instead of offline. I hope they fix
it'll
that.
Just be an image of Dog It, probably.
Yeah, an image of Dog It. All right, and we'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. Thanks for coming out.
Are you cutting the feed? Yeah, we'll
All
just
right.
hang out
Okay.
until Greg's ready.
Well,
He's got
Does he actually need us to come around here?
we need to get out of the way.
All right, we can get out of the way. Actually, here, read some questions out, Blair. They don't need to see our smiling faces. We can keep them entertained while.
Okay.
What else you got?
Will we be able to stack disciplines? For example, to finish him minor disciplines. The answer to that is no, you will not be able to stack disciplines of the same type that are power related. If a discipline has stats, however, the stats do stack. So if you're getting plus 10 range increase from multiple disciplines, those will stack. However, if it relies on a passive, we do not give you the second or third passive for loading it out. I remember you earlier mentioned the werewolf discipline. Are were creatures still a plan for disciplines? Todd?
I want to have transformed polymorph disciplines. I always thought that was one of the things in Shadowbane that was really cool. So those are a little bit heavier in terms of cost because we actually have to build out that creature and then give it enough powers to make it worthwhile, whether it's intended to give you better movement or be combat form or whatever. But yes, I do want to have polymorph disciplines. I think they're pretty cool.
I do as well. I'm a big fan of the form changes. They're a lot of fun. If you do them right, there are ways to not do them right, and I've seen that before. Sorry, Greg.
It's all good.
How many combat disciplines are left to develop so the development on exploration and crafting disciplines can start?
How many combat disciplines are left to be done?
Yeah.
We don't know, is
Yeah.
the honest answer. We're going to just kind of keep making them up as we come up with good ideas. And at some point, we'll call it, right? At some point, we have to lock it down and say this will be in for launch. But then after that, we'll go back and add more. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that this opens up the ability for us to add more race and classes, more races and classes after launch as well. So
Well,
it's
I
an
thought
MMO. As long as you guys keep, playing and we can stay in business, we'll keep adding to it forever.
Yeah, and I think like specific examples to that is there's a piece of tech I wanted, which was totem tech, the ability to drop an object, and it does a little pulsing power thing that could go for a shaman,
Right.
major discipline, or
Similar to the archer stakes.
yes,
that
similar to
Ranger
the
has?
except players can destroy them.
Oh, okay.
Right, that makes it more balanced. So as we think of these fun things that fit a very thematic package, we will keep implementing them. Are you ready?
Yeah. I'm going to answer some design questions on here, but they should know that most of them will be answered at 2.
Okay.
Yep.
So if they want to see any effects.
All right, give me 1 second. Check this out real quick. Let's make sure he's good to go.
Are you going to read the feed?
I'll read it to him this time.
Okay.
Just want to see it.
I'm gonna stop streaming for 1 second.
Okay.
And then put it back up.